So we'll see, it's about time. So with that, Eric, why don't we go ahead and get started? So I'd like to welcome everyone to the Erie Insurance Crash the Classroom event, hosted by Eric St. Louis and his panel. So with that introduction, Eric, let me turn it over to you, and I know you'll take it from there.
All right, appreciate it. First, let me get a thumbs up that everyone can hear me, and you guys can see my screen. I'm sharing my presentation right now. Cool, great. So first, again, thank you, Dr. Engdahl, for allowing us to crash a class today. I'm excited to share some information with you guys about Erie Insurance, as well as Multiplicity, and have you meet some of our awesome colleagues while they talk to you about their careers with Erie Insurance. Now, before we do get into the presentation and panel discussion, I do want to handle a couple of household items first. First, I like to keep the presentation super informal. I'm encouraging you guys to feel free to engage us. If you have questions, feel free to use the raise your hand function throughout the presentation and panel discussion, and we'll get to you and have you ask your question. There's also the chat function. You can feel free to use that as well. We'll have some of our folks monitoring the chat as we go through the presentation. Second, as I mentioned on the flyer, if you guys had got the flyer that Professor Engdahl had provided to you, we want to give you all an opportunity to win some gift cards today. Again, we want to keep this presentation pretty engaging with you all, so we encourage you to speak up to us. So we're going to give you some opportunities to do that while winning some gift cards. So I scatter a couple of pop quiz questions throughout the presentation to make sure you guys are actively paying attention to the information that we're providing. Now, in order to participate in those opportunities to win those gift cards, what you'll actually do is you'll send me an email with your responses to those pop quiz questions throughout the presentation. And you can do it at the end of the presentation. We're actually going to send you guys the presentation after. So you can email me your responses to the pop quiz questions. And that's going to enter you for a drawing for that gift card. So you'll get multiple chances to be entered for a drawing. Along with that, for those who are willing to volunteer during today's discussion to answer the pop quiz questions, we're going to double your chances with that particular question. So we'll enter your name twice there. So just be sure to send us email me your responses to the pop quiz questions. And on that note, I'm going to introduce myself. So my name's Eric St. Louis. I'm a property and casualty actuarial manager with Erie Insurance. I've been with the company for about 4 years, but I have about 10 years of experience in the industry. I've worked in a number of different functions within Erie, including actuarial pricing, which is, our primary role is to set insurance rates for our products. I've worked in our claims division and our enterprise risk management, which is also focused on our financial planning. So for those of you folks who are out there looking at some form of financial planning, being at this personal financial planning class, there may be opportunities in the insurance industry for you as well. So now I want to touch on Multiplicity. So along with my time at Erie, I've also been a part of our Multiplicity business resource group. And essentially what that group is, it's a group of Erie professionals from various functions throughout the company. And our common goal is to essentially attract and retain talent from diverse backgrounds to Erie Insurance. And we approach this by using a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens when it comes to recruiting, providing networking opportunities and other resources to students of underrepresented minority groups within your school, as well as our community. Now, I think for most of us, we see that the current social environment has really brought to the forefront the importance of representation in the workforce, and Erie has long understood this. We fully recognize that there's talent within our underrepresented minority groups, and we want to ensure that that representation is within our company for individuals of those groups as well. And most importantly, we strongly believe that diversity brings new ways of thinking and skills in order to solve today's and tomorrow's issues. So the big reason why we're here to meet with you guys today, why insurance? So according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's about 2.8 million insurance professionals working in the industry today. And in the next, say, 5 to 10 years, more than half of those professionals are going to retire, maybe even more so nowadays with the current work environments. And that's going to open up hundreds of thousands of jobs and allow new hires to quickly advance. So insurance industry brings a ton of opportunity for students who are looking for careers. Along with that, many risk management and insurance careers regularly rank among the best in the country because they offer very high compensation, very low stress, and a chance to grow. So that's something I wholeheartedly have experienced and wholeheartedly can agree with. So a lot of opportunity, a lot of reward in the insurance industry. So I mentioned a rewarding career with high compensation. I think that's pretty important to any individual when they're thinking about what profession they want to get into after they finish their education. However, there's a lot more that goes into determining, what career is best for you. And one of those things to consider, I actually mentioned here, I won't go through each bullet that I have, but I want to hit on this first one because I think it's very important. And that's really understanding the careers that you could apply your educational background to. I think that's important to discuss in this presentation because I've noticed that a lot of folks who've gotten into the insurance industry kind of fell into it. They didn't go to school thinking, hey, I want to get into a career within the insurance industry. However, when they fell into it, they loved it. They loved it. They stuck with it. They enjoy it to this day. I was the same way. I fell into it. I didn't know much about it throughout my college career. Found out pretty late in the game, but glad I got into it. One of the interesting things within the industry is that there's a wide range of business areas. And within each of those business areas, there's a wide range of degrees and educational backgrounds that are applicable. So, for example, our largest division at Erie Insurance is our claims division. And there's a countless number of educational backgrounds that are not only applicable, but also exist within that division. So you think about things from an IT standpoint. We handle a majority of our IT needs are taken care of in-house. So we're hiring, we have a huge IT professional employee base. Along with that, you think about policy language. Well, you need folks who can help develop language that could be interpreted by many parties, whether it be someone that's a everyday insurance consumer to the lawyer who may be trying to go to trial based on an insurance policy. An English major would thrive in that environment, as well as a legal major. So when you're thinking about what your degree can be used in, insurance industry more than likely has something for you. And again, I mentioned I won't go into depth with these other bullet points, but I think they're worth showing here. The insurance industry is an ever evolving industry. I personally have not got bored with it whatsoever. Professional development is very important in the industry. There's numerous professional designations within the insurance industry, and then career stability. I think for the most part, that's what we all want to make sure we have a career at the end of the day, or a job at the end of the day. So now we'll get into our panelist discussion. I'm going to briefly introduce our panelists. They're going to tell us a little bit about themselves, their career paths, and their roles within ERIE today. And between each panelist, we'll stop, we'll ask some prepared questions on my end, and I'll also open the floor for you guys. So again, feel free to raise your hands, feel free to throw questions in the chat. We have our folks monitoring it. So if questions are coming through, feel free to stop me or pause our panelists, and we'll try to get your question answered. So we'll start with Jessica Golmachek. She's a data analytics manager here at Erie. She's been with the company for about 17 years. Next, we'll meet Victoria Unger. She's our newest member on the panel. She's been with the company about 4 months, and she's a data analytics specialist. And then lastly, we'll meet Marina Testa. She's an actual analyst, and she's been with the company for about a year. So Jessica, all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us today. I'm going to walk through my background. As Eric said, I've been with the company 17 years, so I'll try to get through it quickly. So I started kind of like Eric mentioned, I didn't intend to go into insurance. I didn't know that's what I wanted to do. I was doing my undergrad in accounting at Edinboro, and I began working part-time in the evenings at Erie during my undergrad. So when I graduated, it seemed natural to look for a role there. I found a role in IT. And like Eric said, I haven't been bored since. I've been engaged. I've had the opportunity to move to different areas of the company, continue my education. So I moved into IT immediately following my bachelor's degree, and I was in an analyst role, and I wanted to be more hands-on in a technical role. So for about 6 years, I then moved to our products area, which is where I am today. So there's statistics, rating, reporting, all kinds of things that are in the personal products team that I worked on. And as you can see from the icons here, throughout that time, I went back to Gannon to pursue my master's degree. Erie has a tuition reimbursement program, so they help employees, further their education. And then it was 6 years after being in that products team that I felt like I wanted to try a leadership role. So I took on my first leadership role and was continuing to work on my development. My husband and I, in that time we had gotten married, had 2 little children, and decided to have a third. So I took a step back into a data analytics role, a senior level role, and really just at that point fell in love with the data team and working in our data community at Erie. I finished my CPCU, which is an industry designation during that time. And then in January of 2020, I was fortunate to come back to the personal products team in a leadership role on the data and analytics team. So I got to stay in the data community and also move into a leadership role. And then just recently, a couple months ago, I completed my performance leadership certificate from Cornell. So like Eric said, there's all sorts of different professional development opportunities, leadership, insurance. So the company is really good about continuing to offer those throughout my career. So I want to focus a little bit more on the roles on my team than necessarily the manager role itself. So students, Victoria was a student that ended up on my team. So data and analytics specialist roles are typically entry-level roles, college students moving out. Right now, we are filling roles for our data and analytics internship program. So those intern roles are similar to our full-time roles, just a short time period. So in these roles, we're finding insights for business leaders to help make decisions. So my team is focused on personal products data, but we have data teams focused on customer data, billing, our interaction center with who does our phone and our digital transactions. So there's a different perspective on whether you're reporting on operations or regulatory reporting to insurance bureaus, but there's lots of different opportunities in the data community. So it was about 5 years ago that they stood up an enterprise data program at Erie, developed all of those different data teams, and it's really started to become quite robust. I think there's close to 100 people, if not more, in the data program. So there's the different data teams like we talked about. There are specialist roles, which are more along the lines of and analysts. So they're doing reporting, visualizations, and then we do have data engineer roles on those teams as well, which are slightly more technical for folks who might choose to go that path.
There you go. Thanks, Jessica. So as I mentioned before, I wanted to make the discussion informal. So I'm going to start with some panel questions, and hopefully we'll get some questions from our audience. So one of the things I want to do with our panel questions is really give the students the opportunity to gain a piece of valuable advice from you. And I'm going to do this with each of our panelists, but we'll start with you, Jessica. So my first question for you is, from the perspective of a recruiter, what piece of advice would you give students for them to be successful in their career pursuits?
Yeah, so I would say preparation is really key when you're looking for that internship or that entry-level role. A lot of students have similar skills and qualifications. You just haven't had 17 years plus to build those credentials. So I think really coming in prepared, understanding the role that you've applied for, being prepared to speak to your experiences through interview questions. Because I think as someone who's doing the interviewing, we recognize we can train different coding languages, different tools that we use, but some of those key skills and characteristics are what really need to shine through in the interview process.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know I can even think back when I was looking for a job, and some of those postings you'll see, and maybe it's not as prevalent today, but you'll see that they're requiring X number of years experience. And I'm still early in the game. Like I don't have that experience. So how do I shine through? Well, I got to highlight, my talents, highlight the things that are going to make me stand out from those other applicants. I can almost guarantee with those postings, there's a wide range of experience levels that are coming through. That number of years is only put there as sort of a guideline. That's not, something that's a requirement that's needed. So I think it's important that students understand that the key into getting into a position that you're looking for is to be able to highlight your skills, highlight what's unique to you. Any questions from our audience? We got nothing in the chat yet.
Let me ask a question, Eric, because so we got a lot of students that are in my personal financial planning profession class attending, and one of the projects that they're doing is we're doing a resume review. So the project is they come in with the resume, we talk about ways to improve it, they take some steps to improve the resume, and then they get credit for the process. So some of the things when we come in, it could be the format or the layout of the resume. But the other issue with some of them is that they just don't have a whole lot of content. So, maybe they're doing well, maybe they're a Dean's List student, but they're like not doing much above and beyond that. Now, some are doing a lot, but what sort of things for the positions at Erie Insurance, when you're reviewing a resume, what are some things that would stand out to you for, let's say, a recent graduate? And maybe you can think back to maybe some past resumes that you've looked at. And I'll throw this question to the entire panel.
Sure. I can start. I've recently started to do interviewing within our actual division. So maybe I can give some insight there. And I'll also give some insight from an interviewee, someone who's looking for a position. So from a recruiting standpoint, we try to look for the extracurricular activities where you exhibited some leadership experience, and it's not necessarily what you've done in school. It could be things you've done around the community, things you've done in your personal life that can highlight that. So it's not necessarily the generic things that may come to mind, such as, hey, I was part of this club, or I was president in this particular club in school. It could be other items outside of school that we could look for. I think the key there is key advice I'd give students is get active in building up your resume. for those who are pretty early in their college careers, there's opportunity there. There's a common understanding, at least from my perspective and recruiters on my end, that there isn't going to be a lot of experience on the resume for, say, someone who's a rising sophomore. There's some expectation for someone who's about to become a senior, or someone who's a sophomore and they have a genuine interest in the actual profession. There's that expectation that, hey, I know I need to build up my resume in order to get my foot in the door. But for someone who's pretty new, there's a ton of opportunity that, you'd have to get creative in trying to figure out, what's going to speak to your good qualities. From an interviewer, the perspective of someone being interviewed, I actually had that challenge in applying for my current role. I wonder what pieces of my experience could I apply to being a leader. And one of the things that helped me was networking and talking to other individuals and having them help me bring out my talents that could help me stand out against the competition when applying for the leadership role. That's something I think a lot of folks struggle with, just figuring out how to highlight their talents, and I think part of it is because we don't like to brag about ourselves, but being able to have someone to kind of bounce ideas off you and kind of help you, recognize the talents that you do have and talents that you can showcase. I think that's also helpful.
I just want to add to that, Eric. I think sometimes if there's students lacking work experience, I found it really valuable when they'll put project experience on there. So I can think of a data engineer I hired. He had maybe a year out of school, so not a lot of work experience, but it was, hey, I worked on this project where we built a mobile app and these were the tools we used and these were the outcomes. So he listed a few large initiatives. So that gives you some senses to the work ethic and the type of skills that this individual might have, even if they're lacking a little bit in formal work experience.
Yeah, I really like that question. Marina, Victoria, anything you guys want to add?
Go ahead, Marina.
Okay, I was reading. So I was just thinking, obviously leadership is a great experience too, and maybe this is more specific to certain roles, but coding seems to be a big thing out there right now for a lot of different roles. And I think a lot of students think that they can only do coding through college classes, but there's actually a lot of resources online. If you're kind of like a go-getter too, you can show on your resume that even if you take a quick class, it's showing that you're taking the initiative to go out there, learn something new, even if it's just the basics. Now you have that knowledge, you can speak to it in an interview. Like I said, it doesn't apply to every single job, but it seems like as the years go on, it's applying to more and more jobs out there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I was just going to say, I personally did not have much experience because I was applying to my position while I was still in college. I was a senior and didn't have much actual experience, just college specific stuff. So I talked a lot about the courses that I went through and the experience that I gained through that, like the coding that I did through college courses. But I also talked about some soft skills I had, like time management skills. And then I talked to that and gave examples on how I was able to showcase some of my skills that maybe I wasn't able to show in experience level cases.
Eric, I think we did get a question in the chat from Bobby. He asked, what would be more valuable on a resume, diverse work experience through high school and college, or more extracurricular activities?
Good question. I think depending on the year that you're in, the expectations with, the sophomore level, a lot of your experience is going to be coming from, maybe the last 4 years, which, part of that's going to include your high school experience. When you get to, your later years of college education, your junior and senior years, that's when, you're kind of, you figured out where you have a better idea of where you want to go with your career. So you're building your resume, building your experience, doing your college career in order to get there. So kind of think of it that way. I think there's still the balance varies by position, varies by business need, varies by business group. But I think that's kind of the general idea I'd recommend as far as thinking about it.
And I just add, if you can fit all of those on one page, I'd just put it all on there.
Cool. All right. So we'll keep moving forward. Let's see. Okay. So pop quiz. Like I said, we want to give you guys opportunity to win some gift cards from us. So for a $50 gift card drawing, name one key skill set that Jessica recommends developing in order to be successful in a career field that involves data and analytics. Oh, did we get something in the chat? Oh, we didn't. Anybody want to volunteer, take a guess?
Would it be B, communication skills?
There you go. Good man. Your name is Nabin.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All right. Okay, so now let's hear from Victoria.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria. I'm a new hire in Erie Insurance. I'm under Jessica on her team, the personal lines data department. So like I said before, I didn't have too much experience going into a data role at Erie Insurance. I started out at the ARC of Crawford County, and I worked there for about 4 years while I was at college. That is a nonprofit organization where we help people who have certain disabilities, whether it's intellectual or physical or behavioral, things like that, and just help them through their day and work on goals or skill sets that they want to achieve. It was a really great job, and I gained a lot from it. I loved the social aspect of it and being able to help people, but I knew that there was something else out there for me, specifically with a math background, because that's my true passion is math, no matter how nerdy that sounds. But so I worked there to help pay for college throughout my college career. So I ended up with a math major, obviously, at Edinboro, and I had a data analytics minor and a general art minor. So I also did some tutoring for math, statistics, and computer science throughout my time at Edinboro. And I was a teacher's assistant, I think 1 or 2 semesters. Otherwise, I didn't have too many clubs or organizations that I was a part of. I mainly just stuck to my books and just worked on the side. So whenever I was applying for Erie Insurance, I wasn't too sure if I was gonna get the role, but by the good graces, I was hired, and so thankful that I was able to start a role with data. So I'm a data and analytics specialist 1. That is an entry-level role in the personal lines data department. And so I think it might vary a little depending on the person. My job specifically, I was brought in because there was a lot of data quality issues that came up throughout Erie Insurance that over COVID and even before then started piling up. And because of COVID, it just wasn't prioritized really, because there was enough going on that we were just prioritizing then. But now that things have smoothed over, I was brought in to try to work on those things and get them figured out. So it's pretty much across any department. Personal is the main hub of it, but it can extend to different departments. And then I just talk with different departments and other people on my team, use SAS coding, things like that, just trying to find out resolutions and solving them. Another thing that I work on is profiling. So that is kind of similar. We pretty much cross-reference data that is in Erie Insurance with documentation that defines each of these data sources. So for example, there could be driver's license numbers or policy numbers, things like that. And there's a definition and examples of what they are supposed to look like in our system. We have a lot of documentation like that. So just cross-referencing and making sure that everything is how it should be. And if it's not, then writing it and sending it out to other departments to try to get those solved. And then the one other thing that I work on that I think a large majority of my position and other positions under our data team works on is data requests from other departments. So that's just anything that they need, but they can't do it. So they come to us, and we mostly pull it from our data hub and into SAS, which is the programming language that we use, SAS and SQL, and grab those and code them and filter them how they specifically want them, and then send them back to them. And then I also have done a few data requests or project ideas from the director of our data department, Jack. Pretty much those are just silly ideas that he has, that he comes up with. He's just so innovative and always wanting to do stuff, but he's so busy being the director of an entire department. So he sends his ideas out to others to see what we can do. So I worked on a few different things that he's had me work on before. So I love my job. I've only been here for 4 months, but oh my gosh, Jessica is the best boss I've worked for. Not trying to brown this, but it's such an enriching company. It's so nice to feel that I'm helping as well as things like that. It's a great company to work for.
Awesome. Thanks, Victoria. So similar to what I asked Jessica, first I want to get your tips that you'd like to give students as far as opening their door opportunity. And then along with that, I really want you to give sort of a high level explanation of your experience of going through the interview process. So let's start with your tip to opening the door of opportunity.
Okay.
So with respect to someone who's looking to begin their career, what piece of advice would you give?
Okay, I would have to say a big one that maybe people haven't thought of, but it's interviewing the company itself. It's not just the one-sided, what can I provide for the company, but also, is it a good fit for what I'm looking for a job position or for a company? So am I looking for a job that's fast-paced versus slow-paced? Am I wanting to work individually and report to one boss, or am I wanting to work with a team? Am I wanting to work in a very intimate, small company, or am I wanting to work in a large, big production, statewide known kind of company? Just things like that. And some of it you might not even know until you start the position or you get some experience yourself. But I think just definitely trying to look for those kind of things whenever you're job searching. And definitely a good way of doing that is to just research companies that you're interested in. Go to their website, look up their history, maybe look up a few of the employees that are there, see what job positions are available, and maybe even reach out to a few of them and see like what kind of things that they do. And with ERIE specifically, I know that it's very vast with ERIE. With our department, it's kind of a more team building experience. We have our individual jobs. We can also correspond with our teams and report to our boss and things like that. So, but I know that other departments at ERIE are completely different. So yeah, those are my 2 cents for that one.
Awesome. And then as far as the interview process, so I know you're what I consider the ideal scenario of a candidate coming into the company, where you participated earlier this year on this Crash the Classroom event that we held with Professor Engdahl class, and then you were able to network with us, reached out to myself as well as Jessica about the position opening. So from that networking opportunity, tell us about the interview process. that led to you getting hired?
Yes. Okay. So yeah, like you said, as soon as I was in this meeting last, I think February, I was definitely trying to get myself out there, get myself known to you guys. So, and then you guys reached back out and said to apply online. You gave some entry level job positions that were available at the time. And so I went to your website and I applied there. And then shortly after that, I got an email saying I had been noticed as one of an oncoming interviewee. And they gave a date as to when the interviews were available, and then a layout of what to expect. So I'm pretty sure it'll be the same. It's not going to change, but for me, it was one day and there was 2 hours of interviewing. The first hour was with 6 people from one panel, and then the second hour was with 6 different people. And they split it up like that because the first interview was more of a general get to know you and your personality and how you fit with us and how we fit with you, kind of just a general kind of thing like that. More soft skill based things like that. And then the second interview was more fine-tuned and had interviewers from your actual department that you're going to be working for potentially, and they asked direct specific questions that relate to your job position and what you know and your experience levels there. But yeah, it sounds maybe a little intimidating having that many people, but it was over Zoom, so it wasn't as intimidating, at least in my understanding. And I was able to meet a lot of different people from vast different departments, and that was really cool. Yeah, they asked some pretty general questions at the beginning, just like tell us about yourself. What are your hobbies? What do you like doing outside of that school? Do you have any other like job experience? Just kind of general stuff. And then, like I said, the second one was more specific. What projects have you worked on? They gave certain scenarios, certain example questions, like coming up with certain scenarios of tell me about a time that you worked through this type of project or things like that. Or they gave a prompt and just wanted to see like how your thought process worked, even if you weren't correct in answering their question, just wanting to see how you were going about that kind of thing. But yeah, and then after that, then I think they emailed me pretty soon after, within a week, whether I got it or not. And then I just was straight on from there. So.
Awesome. Yeah, you mentioned soft skills there. For those who aren't familiar with soft skills, please Google it. They're extremely important within any industry. So definitely touch up those soft skills before your interview. All right, another opportunity for pop quiz. For a $50 gift card drawing, describe one interesting thing you've learned about insurance or even ERIE Insurance at this point. Anyone want to volunteer to answer?
I think it's pretty interesting that a lot of people that get into insurance kind of just fall there, and nobody really kind of goes to school to do that. It's kind of just fall there, like as you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation.
Yeah, I agree. That's always a dynamic that's really cool to me, because I mean, it's a great industry, and I'm just surprised that more folks aren't jumping on it. So, cool. Thanks, Matt. All right, let's meet Marina.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marina Testa. I am an actuarial analyst. I've been in this role for a little over a year. Now, I am not an Edinboro grad, although it does seem like a very nice place. I actually went to Robert Morris just outside of Pittsburgh for actuarial science. We keep saying that word a lot. And when I was in college, or first started in college, I didn't necessarily know exactly what that was. By a show of hands, does anyone know what an actuary is? Oh, okay, great. I won't put you on the spot to explain it, but basically, for everyone else's sake, we manage risk, and I'll jump more into that and give you more details in the next slide. But I also am from the Pittsburgh area. Eric put the Pirates up there. I'm a fan, but not a, they're hard to root for sometimes. Anyways, because I'm an actuary, we have to take a lot of these exams outside of it. So that's what the CAS little path right there is. And then lastly, so I was an intern for ERIE back in 2020. So the first virtual intern class. And then after the internship was over, that's when they offered me a full-time position in August. So for the full senior year, I had that position waiting for me when I came back. And now I've been in this role for a little over a year. So I'll talk more about that role. I don't know, Eric, did you want me to just jump right into that, or did you have any questions in the meantime?
No, we can jump right into it.
Perfect. Okay. So more specifically, so I said that actuaries manage risk. And I always describe it like, I described it last year whenever we were doing the crash the classroom as this. When you're selling a product such as, like, say, an iPhone, for example, they know how much that product costs ahead of time. They know how much profit they want to make. It's really easy to pick a price for it. You can probably gather that it can be hard to pick a price for insurance because we don't know how many accidents, if any, our customers are going to get into. So it gets very intricate, and thus that's why they have us take all these extra exams as an actuary. But that is a big chunk. There's also other roles within that actuarial department, but that's the role that I'm in right now, is the pricing department. So we're trying to project out how many losses we're going to have so we can make sure we have enough money to pay out those whenever they do have a claim. Because of that, there's obviously a lot of data analysis going on with that. We're using a lot of projective pieces thanks, Eric, to project out what you think that cost might be. And so as an intern, I was doing some projects. Now I'm actually having a role on the team to change those prices. We do rate reviews for different states and different products. Interestingly enough, while most people don't think they're getting into the insurance world, I pretty much thought I was. Actuarial science is very specific, usually, to the insurance world. But I do have that perspective as being an intern as well. So if anyone is in that portion of their, for the juniors or sophomores that might be present, if you have any questions about that, I am also be happy to help answer those.
Okay, sorry about that.
You're good.
Kids are getting home from school. So again, we want to get that tip that you have, that you provide students that'll help them open their door opportunities. So similar to Victoria, with respect to someone who's looking to begin a career, what piece of advice would you give them?
So my piece of advice, I sort of have two. The main one being what Victoria actually did, which was to get your foot in the door. There are so many opportunities present. You might even feel overwhelmed with all of them, but taking that initiative to get out there, meet people, network is super important. You being in here alone is already getting your foot in the door in a lot of ways. So keeping up with those connections that you make, because you might, like people we would keep mentioning, you might not have even realized insurance might be a right fit for you. Which leads me into my next point of why I think insurance might be a right fit for a lot of people, which is my tip number 2, because when you do get your foot in the door and get out there, you can realize all the other opportunities, even whenever you're still working full time. So when I was in your shoes 2 years ago, I think now, it was a little scary to pick a job because I was like, I don't want to be doing this for the next 40, 45, however long I'm going to need to work. I was scared that I was committing to something that I didn't want to be doing for 45 years. Well, the beauty of insurance is that there's all those different departments that they mentioned, and there's so many opportunities to grow in that way. So I'm actually in a rotational program now. I can jump over to different departments, get a little flavor of what's going on over there, and find the right fit for me. So I think that's another important tip for success, is like, don't be afraid to try new things as well when you're getting your foot in the door in those places.
Awesome. And I honestly was going to save this for last, but I think this is a good segue into my next item that I want you to kind of describe, Marina. But before we do that, we're going to have, looks like we got a question. Is it Kyle? How do you pronounce your name? I don't want to butcher it.
It's Kyle.
Okay, go ahead, Kyle.
It's awesome to hear about the different roles available and some tips to be successful there.
but I would love to hear more about the company values and culture.
Great question. Great question. Now, I should give you full disclosure. So I did sort of tailor the presentation to be a little bit shorter because of the amount of time that we have and the number of questions we were expecting. But that question leads me into the same segue that I was going to have Marina explain. So Marina, she actually heads up our job shadow process within actuarial. And she's also a member of Multiplicity like myself. And again, we try to perform outreach efforts to students to get them hip to the insurance industry as well as ERIE. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to have Marina explain the job shadow process and sort of the benefits that we provide, as well as the opportunity to learn about ERIE and its culture within that process. So Marina.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. So now Eric said, I'm the actuarial job shadow. However, we do have one for each department. So if there's one you want to explore, but just to walk you through quickly, what I do is I set people up on a 2-hour job shadow. And these have been virtual since I've been in charge of this, where you get to meet with 4 different people within actuarial that are all in different departments, like I mentioned, all with varying degrees of experience. So that way you can get a full range of what it's like. And I feel like through that experience, because you're talking to 4 separate people, so those are all half-hour presentations, you get a good grasp of what the company values the most, because you can see common themes throughout each of their presentations. You know, they're all very different. They have different expertise, but they all sort of have the same general theme going. They all the ERIE, you know, the company culture can shine through during those job shadows. And I think that's another great opportunity to jump at if given that, if, you know, you hear about it, which obviously I'm telling you about the actuarial one, but if there's other departments you wanted to get connected with, I can also reach out to those departments and get you connected so you can see a job shadow from over there as well.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, Kyle, that's a really good question. We have information for the job shadow opportunity within the presentation. So if you're interested and you want to learn about specific departments as well as the company, feel free to reach out. We have a Multiplicity contact form where you're able to share the different areas that you're interested in, and we can try to get you linked up with folks there. You can, you know, learn about what they do as well as our company values and culture. So I do apologize. I moved that stuff to the appendix, so it's within the presentation. But I wanted to make sure we got some good discussion going with the group here today. So I kind of shaved it down a bit from what we did earlier this year. But no, I'm glad you brought it up, though. Thank you.
Hey, Eric, we've kind of come to the end of the class time, so I think you're going to have some students dropping off.
Okay.
But I'm willing to stay on for another 5-10 minutes if there's still students who are interested, but there are some students who are going to have to leave to go to a 3 o'clock class. So
sure. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up real quick. Have another pop quiz in here. Again, I'm going to send this presentation out to everyone, so you'll be able to respond to our email and be able to submit your answers for these pop quiz opportunities to win gift cards. Along with that, we kind of recap our tips to opening your door of opportunity, those tips that our panelists provided today. And then the 2 items here below mentioning the job shadow opportunity through Multiplicity, as well as applying for our Future Focus internship program. We have that information within the appendix. So if there's interest there, I highly recommend you guys check out our appendix. Along with that, there's also opportunities to win additional money within the appendix. So be sure to check that information out when you do get it. Jessica, it looks like you have something.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one thing about the internship program. So I think the timing sometimes is a surprise to college students. So we're actually working on filling those roles for the summer. We're actively interviewing. We're doing these types of recruiting things, but those will likely be filled by the end of this year. So if you're thinking about looking for an internship for next summer, now is the time to be putting those applications in.
Oh yeah. Most departments definitely try to have them filled by December. I know actually we're a little bit earlier than that, but company-wide is typically by December. So definitely jump on it if you're interested there. And on that note, it looks like there's another message in the chat. Okay, Victoria mentioned something. Question for Victoria. How would you compare the work that you do on a daily basis to the work that was done in your data analytic classes?
She answered in the chat for, she put an explanation in there.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. All right, yeah, and if you guys do have any additional questions for us, we have our contact information in the presentation, so don't hesitate to reach out. All right, cool. Well, we appreciate you guys taking the time to hear us out today. We hope to hear from you soon.
Thanks, Eric. And just to be clear, like the follow-up with the answers to the questions, were you going to send me an email that I was going to forward out?
Yes.
To those
Yes.
who are here? Okay, and for those who are here, I do have a list of everybody who was in attendance.
Awesome.
So if you want to send me that email, I'll make sure it gets to the attendees for today.
Sure, absolutely. And those who may have been watching recording, feel free to go through, answer, and shoot me an email. Again, my contact information is in the presentation. You'll see it in the recording as well.
Okay,
awesome.
Appreciate it, Eric. Appreciate it, panelists. Once again, very beneficial information. Eric, I'll try to follow up with you sometime this week about this to kind of get some feedback. But can't thank you enough for spending part of your busy day with us. And we appreciate it very much and hope to have you back in the spring.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.